And welcome back to Mine is the Fury. Of course, I am Eric. I'm going to be recapping Game of Thrones Season 7, Episode 6, Beyond the Wall. As always, remember to follow Honest Jack, DTV, and Odd Shape channel. Now, this wasn't my favorite episode of the season, but it was still good. There was lots of great dialogue between certain characters that I really loved about the episode. Instead of jumping all around, there was two stories, so I'm just going to start with what happened at Winterfell. So, Arya and Sansa are having a moment at Winterfell, and Arya's talking about a moment she had in her past and how she shot it like an arrow, and her father Ned applauded her. But then she confronts Sansa about what she found at in Littlefinger's. What was inside Littlefinger's bed? The letter that Sansa was forced to write to Robb back in season 1, and she's pretty upset about it. But Sansa's like, I was forced to write this. You don't understand what I went through. But then Arya says, I saw you when our father was executed. I saw your pretty dress. I saw the way your hair was done. And I thought Arya was being completely unfair in this scene. She was really pissing me off. Sansa's like, you would never have survived what I survived. And let's be honest, they both went through stuff. But what Sansa went through is way worse than what Arya went through. So what Littlefinger tried to cause, I guess, this conflict between them, and it's working. And when you take into the fact that they were never really super close to begin with growing up, it's not a shock. But some people think maybe Arya is just doing this for show. This is all part of a plan to get Littlefinger. We'll find out. But later in the episode, Sansa's looking for this letter, and in Arya's room, and Arya confronts her, and she's like, let's play a game. Sansa finds all those faces of Arya. She's like, what are these? Where'd you get these from? And Arya, again, is just... This episode might be my least favorite Arya episode in the history of the show. She was just pissing me off. I thought I was totally on Sansa's side with this, but I am hoping this is part of some kind of plan to get Littlefinger. Because if Arya's just acting like this to act like this, thumbs down. Absolutely no. But she gives Sansa cat's paw dagger before she leaves the room. But definitely there's going to be stuff that happens next week that I'm looking forward to. But the meat of the episode and all the stuff that truly was just good and bad was what happened. Everything with this expedition trying to find an undead, a white, to bring back to show the Queen, Cersei, that this is the threat. And this is what's coming for all of us. So we got Jon and Tormund and the Hound and Beric and Thoros and Jorah and Gendry. And what I liked about this part was the character interactions. I love that Gendry confronts the Brotherhood. They say to him, are you still mad at us? And he's like, yes, I'm still mad at you. I wanted to become one of you, but you sold me to that Red Witch who was going to kill me. And then, there was a great moment between Jon and Jorah where, Jon talks to him about Jorah's father, Lord Commander Mormont, and he offers Jorah back Longclaw, which was in Jorah's family for generations. It was meant for Jorah, but he brought shame to the house, so the Lord Commander gave it to Jon, but Jorah does not accept it. He says, I gave up my claim to this a long time ago. My father gave it to you. It belongs with you, I thought that was a cool scene. Then, Tormund and the Hound have a great scene where Tormund goes up to the Hound, and he's like, are you really mean? And the Hound's like, no, I just hate gingers. And then Tormund has this terrific line of saying, gingers are beautiful, we are kissed by fire, and I completely agree with that. We are beautiful creatures, absolutely. And then he mentions Brienne to the Hound, and the Hound realizes, like, oh my god, you're with her? And it was just funny stuff. That was some of my favorite parts of the episode were between Tormund and the Hound. They just had a great interaction, absolutely terrific. But as they're moving on with this expedition, they're getting further and further in, and they encounter a zombie bear, which was really cool to see. And Thoros and Beric bring out their flaming swords, which was cool. But the bear gets Thoros, wounds him pretty badly. They kill the bear, but Thoros is pretty hurt. They try to cauterize the wound with Beric's flaming sword. But they have to move on. They have to keep going with this mission. But what they end up doing, they end up sending Gendry back. They say, listen, you got to get word to Daenerys. We're in trouble here. You're the fastest. Get back there. So Gendry gives his hammer to Tormund, and he just starts running. Then this group encounters the undead, some whites, and they're fighting whites. They find one, they capture it. The one, this is what was their mission. This is what they wanted to do, and they discover something when they kill a White Walker, that the whites around him die. So that's valuable information that they're going to probably definitely need for the Great War to come. But in between all this, Dany and Tyrion are having this scene back at Dragonstone, and Tyrion's still telling her, doing what you did to the Tarleys, I don't think was exactly the right call. But what they start talking about is the line of succession. What happens if Daenerys dies? And she just says that's a question for a different day when I wear the crown. But back to everything that's going on with the group, they're encountering the undead, and they're in big trouble. They have to run. There's so many undead coming at them, and they end up in this frozen lake, and the undead are just surrounding all of them, and they know it's just a waiting game. They're just going to freeze to death if Daenerys doesn't come. But Gendry does get back to the wall. Davos is there. They get him, and they send a raven to Daenerys, and Dany gets the message, and she just wants to take off and save them all. Tyrion's advising against this, though. He's saying, don't go. Sometimes doing nothing is the smartest thing, but she's like, no, I have to go. She takes Drogon and the other two dragons to go rescue them. So back to the group, they're just waiting and waiting. The Hound throws a rock at one of the undead, which was a stupid move, to be honest. But then just all chaos breaks out. The undead starts fighting them, and it looks like for a moment poor Tormund was going to die, and I really believed he was going to die. And before all this, Thoros does succumb to his wounds from the cold. He does die. It was kind of sad. I had nothing against Thoros. I mean, he wasn't my favorite character, but may you rest in peace. But they're being attacked. Tormund doesn't die at the last second. He's saved, thank goodness, because I didn't want him to die. So they look like they're in very big trouble, that they're all going to die. But in comes Dany with all the dragons, and they start destroying the undead. The Night's King is there. He's watching all the action, and Dany starts kicking butt, basically. But the Night's King takes this ice spear thing, and as Viserion's flying, throws it right at Viserion, and what happens? Viserion goes down and dies, which was a very big moment. A lot of us suspected the dragon was going to die, and it ended up happening in this episode. It was sad. Dany's devastated. She's trying to evacuate as many people as she can on Drogon. Jon's not on Drogon, but Jon tells her, go, take the white, take everyone, get out of Dodge, just leave me. Dany doesn't want to do it, but she ends up doing it. And so Jon's in big trouble. He falls through the water, ice water, and we know he's not really going to die. But he emerges from it, and he's surrounded by all the undead, and it looks like he's in trouble. But who comes to save him? Benjen Stark, Cold Hands, to the rescue. And this is a pretty big moment, because they haven't seen each other since season 1. And, Cold Hands takes his mask off to show who he is, and, Jon's like, oh, it's you, Uncle Benjen. Cold Hands puts Jon on his horse and says, get out of here. Have to save you. I cannot come with you. And as Jon's riding away, we see Cold Hands giving up his life, basically fighting the undead and going down in glory. Rest in peace, Benjen Stark. I wish you were on for a little longer, but at least you went out fighting. So Dany's back at Eastwatch and waiting to see if Jon comes back. She doesn't want to leave. She doesn't want to give up hope. And then finally, Jon does arrive on the horse. They bring him in. Davos tears his shirt off, and Dany sees Jon's scars from what happened with the mutiny with the Night's Watch. And that was actually a pretty cool scene for her to see that what Davos said about him taking a knife in the heart was the truth, because she can tell by all these open scars that Jon has. Then Jon wakes up. Dany's right there with him, and he says, look, I wish I never went. I wish this whole thing never happened. But Dany's like, Dany's all upset because, the dragons are her kids and one of them is now dead. And she's like, I'm glad I went, though. I needed to see. Now I know the truth of what we're going to face. And she tells Jon, I will help you. We will defeat the Night King together. Jon says, thank you, Dany. She says it's not the best thing to call me, the last person to call me that was my brother, who was a total abusive dick. So then he says, how about I call you my queen? He says, I'd bend the knee, but I can't right now. And then that touches Danny, and he's like, ever people will see what I see in you. So there's definitely a romantic vibe between them, in my opinion, even though they're nephew and niece, they don't know that. And you can just tell something's going to happen between them. But the episode ends, though, with the Night's King pulling Viserion up from the water where Viserion fell down. A lot of people are like, where did they get these big chains? But chains, it doesn't matter. I mean, it was probably Hardhome and other places. Who cares? They bring Viserion up, dead Viserion. The Night's King goes up to Viserion, touches Viserion, and the episode ends with an ice eye opening. Viserion is now an undead dragon that clearly the Night's King is going to use, and that's going to be a huge, powerful weapon. So overall, it was a good episode. It wasn't my favorite episode of the season. I mean, a lot of stuff happened. Like I said, lots of great character interactions, but a lot of people are complaining about all the traveling, consistency issues, and I don't have any issue with any of that. I mean, it doesn't bother me. It's a show. We'll have plenty to read about traveling when The Winds of Winter does come out. Someone was even complaining about not seeing ice breath, and I was like, from the human characters, and I'm like, are you serious? Who cares? Where do people come from? What? But anyway, I'm really looking forward to the finale next week. It's going to be a much longer review because it's going to be a much longer episode. It's like 81 minutes, and I cannot wait to talk about it, but I'm also sad because it is the last episode, and I feel we're going to have a very long wait for the final season. So there you have it. That's what I think. That's my recap. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next week.